Hi, I'm Steve Wylie. I'm here at the E2 conference in Santa Clara. I'm joined by Ben Fried, who's the CIO of Google. Ben, welcome.
Hey, Steve. Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, Ben, I have to ask you, just to kind of kick things off here, you are CIO over Google, and you focus your talk a lot here today around the consumerization of IT.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, you are responsible for a very large enterprise yourself. How do you sort of balance the needs of the users with the needs of a large enterprise like Google?
Well, I think the first thing is that actually those needs aren't really in conflict. I think that one of the it's a commonly held, but I would say false opposition, that those needs are in conflict. And what we've discovered at Google is recognizing the fact that my users, my customers, are technology savvy people. The recipe for success for the two concerns that you mentioned starts with respecting and trusting them, and respecting that they're at the company to do a job, and they probably understand how to do that job pretty well. We need to empower them and help them with choices that they've made, including technology. And interestingly, what we've discovered is that when we're actually transparent, we show them the cost and the impact of the decisions that they make about the technology that they want to use. They make great decisions. It brings our cost of technology down to be really, really competitive with industry benchmarks.
Yeah, I really like that in your presentation. You show the economics behind some of the personal technology choices people are making, and they can see exactly how that sort of maps against their neighbors, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we added this feature at one point that does, people get a monthly view of their technology footprint with costs associated with all the technology that they use. And wherever possible, we added this ability for you to say, I want to give it back, right? I don't need that software anymore, uninstall it. Oh, I don't need that laptop anymore, I only use a desktop now, so take it back.
Right.
And within 2 hours of doing that, we got $400,000 in savings, right? Just in the first 2 hours. People, if you trust people and respect them, they want to do the right thing. I think that so much of traditional IT has become about this patriarchal idea of making decisions on behalf of our users, which is really what we need to get away from.
You talked a lot about the changing nature of enterprise applications as well. Big theme here at the conference this week. And I want to zero in on one line that you said, which I think was interesting. You said that enterprise applications is a racket.
Yeah.
If you could kind of expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think what I meant to say, and maybe this, I didn't quite get this out in the heat of the moment, but what I meant to say is that traditional enterprise IT is a racket, and I said, and we're all suckers, honestly. The reason why it's a racket is because the decisions that you make, you pay for forever, right? So every piece of software, good, bad, or indifferent, that you add to your environment is a cost that you can never get rid of, right? So it's the cost of the servers, which will need to be upgraded every 3 to 5 years, and the operating system, and the antivirus software, and the network, and the data center, and disaster recovery facilities, and system and network administrators, and the list goes on and on and on. Even if the enterprise software itself doesn't change, those costs are significant, right? And it's a racket, and it's a racket that's ultimately destructive to the enterprise technology industry itself, because CIOs have to become conservative, right? They see every piece of technology they bring into their environment, they see an infinite tail of costs for.
So I want to close with something. You're a CIO of a large enterprise like Google, and really on the forefront of using a lot of the technologies that are really changing the landscape of enterprise applications. What would be your key takeaway for all the other CIOs out there who are dealing with, I think, a lot of the same issues that you've sort of come to terms with at Google? What would be your main takeaway?
So, I mean, at the highest level, I think that CIOs need to accept that the world has changed at a super macro level, and they have to adapt to it, right? A small handful of companies that deliver services to the entire globe over the web have created economies of scale and technologies that never existed before. And those are the factors that are changing our industry, right? And what's affecting us as CIOs is the fact that all the people in our companies use those technologies every day. So I think when people hear about the cloud or enterprise technology or personal productivity, or if you hear about big data or mobile or social or any of the buzzwords that are popular now, the most important thing to understand is that all of those other buzzwords and technology fads that I talked about are being driven by those two fundamental changes: globe scale, consumer-based technology services, and a generation that uses them. and CIOs, you know, you can't fight the tide, right? You have to recognize that this is the way the world is now, and we all have to adapt to that and figure out what that means for us.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Steve, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.